Let's talk about Cooper Union because this is dark. This is crazy. Let me ask you a question. This may not be an appropriate question, as so many of mine are not. Where are the Jewish groups fighting back? Why are we not seeing Jewish groups in the streets in New York, all over the country, to show a force, like a counter protest to what we're seeing with these pro-Palestinian groups who all I hear is from the river to the sea. I'm sick of their from the river to the sea. Yeah. They can take their from the river to the sea and shove it. I understand Jewish people are understandably feeling afraid right now. There was a massacre of Jews in Israel 2 weeks ago, but I was looking at it when I saw these poor Jewish kids inside this library. What I wanted in my imaginary world were for them to open the doors of the library, get in the faces of these protesters and say, I don't use the P word, but you absolute P words. Bring it. What is it? They're not going to shoot them. They're just trying to scare them. Fuck off. That's kind of what I wanted to say, but easy for me to say. I'm sitting here in the comfort of my studio, well protected. I don't know what the answer is here, but I don't want to see more instances of Jews having to hide in the school library or elsewhere.
In fairness, Megyn, one of the students told the Jewish students inside the library told CBS News that if it was up to him, he would have taken off the barricade in the door and got in straight into their faces, but they were told not to.
My man.
Do it. I would ask your question, which I think is appropriate, but I think the most appropriate question is why aren't we? Those of us who aren't Jewish, so I don't really know about where Moynihan is on this on any given day, or
on any given day.
Of his children. But why aren't the Gentiles out in force? I mean, tomorrow there's going to be a huge pro-Palestinian demonstration. I believe in Crown Heights, over by the Brooklyn Museum.
God.
And so this is a perfectly apt time for counter protests and also just acts of public empathy and sympathy for our Jewish friends who are traumatized. I'm in a neighborhood which is not full of yahoos, despite our local city councilwoman who was arrested in Bryant Park for blocking traffic and chanting to the river by the sea. The old Brooklyn Italian neighborhood, and they have the posters up, the flyers on the trees and on some of the street lamps showing the hostages that have been kidnapped in Gaza. And people, a small minority of people, but they're tearing them down. They have to put them higher and higher in the trees, including right across the street from the Jewish school that's right across the street from my house. Imagine that. You're just walking around, you're dropping off your kid, you're feeling a lot of it uncertain, terrible about what's happened. And you can look on the trees. Yeah, it's my picture. Hey, thanks, guys. You can look on the trees and see where people have been ripping them down. How does that make you feel? I mean, how do you even visualize the mentality of the person who does that? So yes, Megyn, I think there should be counter demonstrations, but I think they should be led by Gentiles, because right now there's all of these phrases and slogans that have been sort of allowed to hang there and almost be stated as facts, including to the river, from the river to the sea, that need to be challenged, and they also need to be sort of vociferously countered at a moment when, especially in a city like New York, where we have more than 1 million Jews who live here, our people are hurting.
Yes, I would go out. Honestly, I feel like I'm happy to go out. I understand some Jewish people right now are telling their kids not to wear their Star of David, not to wear the yarmulke, to be careful. Bethany Mandel was saying she had to have an active shooter discussion with her kids on the way to temple last week. I get the fear, but I also get, we have to remember here in particular, this is America. We don't cower. F these people. In 9 times out of 10, these snot-nosed college assholes are just spewing a bunch of BS they don't even understand. They're not actually going to harm anybody. And somebody needs to get in their face and make them understand there's no backing down. There's another side. The majority of this country supports Israel, recognizes this was a terrorist attack, and you can spew your nonsense all you want, but there's a much louder voice in this country, much louder. I personally want to see it on the street. I'm happy to be part of it. It's just jarring to me to hear stories about Jews having to lock themselves in the library. And, story after story we've heard, there's some crazy pieces of that Cooper Union story about they had to be escorted out through the tunnels. I mean, think about being a Jewish person in the wake of the Hamas attack, where they still have Jewish prisoners in tunnels right now in Gaza, and you're walking through a tunnel to exit your own school for your own safety. It's effed up in New York City.
I mean, one of the amazing things to me, Matt pointed out that there's going to be yet another one of these rallies, these pro-Hamas rallies. I don't know what other way to describe them, either tomorrow in New York City or Saturday, that starts in Crown Heights. People of any historical memory will be jarred by that. In 1980, there was quite a furor within the media when Ronald Reagan launched his campaign in Mississippi after he won the nomination. And he launched it from a town in which there was a famous lynching. The Reagan campaign claimed they didn't know this, but it's still, I saw it in a book like 2 months ago that I was reading, that this comes up. Crown Heights in 1991 was the scene of those who are from the area and remember Crown Heights. Before I moved to New York in 2001, I knew Crown Heights as the scene of an anti-Semitic riot in 1991, where Orthodox Jews were attacked and their stores were looted and set on fire. It's astonishing to me that this is going to be launched in Crown Heights. One would imagine that there would be somebody pointing this out. As of yet, I haven't heard anyone point this out. But when the Cooper Union thing is pretty astonishing too. My favorite thing, and I wanted to read you something because I got up this morning and I looked at the newspaper and I saw a story about this on the New York Times. The New York Times had a story about this that had this sentence in it, which I want to say, I don't know what happened to Cooper Union. I was not there. I've seen little bits of video and I'm holding off. But this is what the New York Times said. There was no indication that the protesters intended to harm the Jewish students or anyone else in the library. But the student who was there was nonetheless scared that the protesters might break down the doors. Now, take that sentence and rewrite it. There was no indication that the MAGA protesters were intending to harm the black students in the library. But I don't suspect that would happen. I appreciate that the New York Times, after screwing up the hospital coverage, is now trying to, just say, we'll be a little safe about this. But it's interesting and curious that they're being safe now on this issue. And I will quote the British comedian David Baddiel, who himself is Jewish and has a book which says it all. The title of it says it all: Jews Don't Count. They don't count as minorities. Yeah. You're people who oppose racism. You're anti-racist, and you're out protesting on behalf of a group that killed Jews because they were Jewish. What does one call that? One would presumably call that racism, but as Baddiel says, Jews don't count.
They were chanting all these same slogans, Intifada, from Israel to Gaza, however it was, the stupid sayings that they've been saying. And obviously the president felt threatened enough that she got escorted out the back and left her students suffering and to fend for themselves. The security guard, we played the tape, couldn't stop them, saying, no, you saw them overcome the security guard. The protest was supposed to be outside and not on campus. That's why the campus is saying we didn't beef up police presence. But they came on campus. The one security guard couldn't handle them. They overtook the guy. They went to the library. How did they know that the Jews were going to be in the library? I don't know. I don't know how they knew or what they understood, but there they went. And while the president was skirling out the back, the Jews were stuck inside the library, afraid. And this councilwoman I mentioned, this is how she described it. The protesters stormed the school building. There were no consequences. No one was arrested. The faculty members canceled class for the walkout, encouraging the students to go. They offered them extra credit to do so the school was well aware it was going to happen. Faculty members themselves participated in the walkout. They participated, and yet they didn't beef up campus security. There were only about 12 campus security guards total on site at any given time, never mind yesterday. And then the NYPD did not show up right away, even though they were getting called 911 calls from the library. So yes, New York Times, the students did feel threatened. And then the NYPD told the students later that Cooper Union did not allow the NYPD onto school grounds. It's a private institution, and they say they were turned away by the same university that was ferreting its president out the back so that she could stay safe. The dean of the school, I mentioned this, escorted out through a safe back door. And, globalize the Intifada from New York to Gaza. That's what they were chanting, globalize the Intifada from New York to Gaza. And to this hour, the school has not issued any statement. addressing this or ensuring the students that they would be safe to come to school today. Of course, they're worried about it. And then here's a statement that we just got from the pro-Palestinian protesters. Listen to this. We planned a peaceful protest in response to the school's one-sided stance and participation in the occupation of Palestine. Oh, the school's participating in the occupation of Palestine. Are they? Weird. Okay. This is all because they're pissed off that their school president issued a good statement. It took her a few days, but finally she issued a good statement in support of Israel in the wake of the terror attack. You know, we stand against the atrocities and the murder of civilians. We plan to peacefully protest outside the building before walking in and continuing our protest inside the president's office. Well, why'd you do that? You're skipping over some key points. Yes, you planned the one thing, but then you did the other, which became the issue. Hello? When we reached the library, again, why were you at the library? You're skipping over some key motivations and facts. We were told that it was closed, so we continued chanting. Again, half the story, folks. We know you were chanting about the Intifada, globalize the Intifada from New York to Gaza. Our protest was not targeting any individual students or faculty. We know it was just Jews. But the institution itself. Well, it's weird how you didn't stay outside the institution. You went right to the library where the Jewish students were. We do not condone anti-Semitism. Now, this is a lie. When we reached the library, we were told it was closed, so we just continued chanting. Watch, I'll play you the tape again. They're banging on the locked door where the Jewish students are huddled so they can fuck off. Sorry, a lot of F-bombs today with their stupid, dishonest statement. It isn't true.